Despite Canada's tremendous size, nearly 40% of us live in the big three cities of Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal. Some observers think the Conservatives appeal to rural voters, while parties like the Liberals and NDP capture urban votes. But are urban and rural voters that different from each other in terms of what they need to thrive? In the last federal election, Conservatives were denied seats in all three big cities. What do they propose to urban voters this time? Our experiment plays Political Cupid by taking two opposing politicians out of their comfort zone.
People across Canada don't realize how much science goes into crop development.
And forces them to listen to one another.
That's why we need to get people out of their cars and onto public transit.
We're sending them on a series of platonic dates to solve the thorniest issues facing Canadians.
We believe that you can have both diversity and unity.
Who will seduce the other with logic or passion? And what surprises are in store? This is Political Blind Date.
In some cases, on some issues, or from time to time, a disconnect between what life is like in urban Canada and in rural Canada. Remember the story when we were kids about the country mouse and the city mouse. You know, there is that different perspective and different experience, and obviously different priorities. My mom was a nurse at the Children's Hospital there, and my dad worked for the Ottawa Citizen. And we always talked politics around the dinner table. We'd go into current events, what was going on in the world, and that just sparked an interest in politics. We fell in love very quickly, and I moved to Regina. She was finishing her degree at the University of Regina, so I finished up mine there as well. Got a job in an insurance office as a broker, and next thing you know, I put my hat in the ring in the 2004 election. I was elected for the first time in the riding of Regina Capel, the northeast part of Regina, in 2004. I just took to it instantly. I really did develop an appreciation for that unique role in preserving and protecting elements of our parliamentary democracy that are so important. Now in this position as leader, it's certainly compounded and a lot more responsibility and an even bigger sense of honor. So I never take that for granted. I always have that at the top of my mind when I go to work every day.
I'm Bonnie Crombie, and I'm mayor of the great city of Mississauga, which is the 6th largest city in Canada, the 3rd largest city in Ontario. It was a wonderful upbringing. My mother was a single mom. That's why we lived with my grandparents. And life was simpler. She took the streetcar to go to work at Massey Harris. I have 3 children who are today 29, 25, and 21. And had the opportunity, after I was a member of parliament, to run for a council seat. And then Hazel McCallion decided to retire and called me one day into her office and let me know of her plans to retire and suggested I should consider to put my name forward for mayor. And I thought, wow, I think it was a turning point in my career, because when somebody like Hazel McCallion suggests they have that confidence in you and she thinks you could do her job, I think it was a turning point in my life. It was certainly a milestone. So I came to love municipal politics. You just get the job done. We're more nimble. We get things done. I have a very collaborative council. I'm a consensus builder by nature, and people will tell you I'm very determined and have a very strong work ethic, and I attribute that to the values and the principles that I was raised with from my mother and my grandparents.
Canada is urbanizing at breakneck speed, and the trend is getting more and more pronounced. People are leaving rural areas. The top 25 cities in Canada are growing, while hundreds of smaller communities are shrinking. What can be done to help stabilize and nurture rural communities where much of Canada's food is grown and important contributions to the GDP are generated? It's the elephant in the room of Canadian politics. Does Canada risk a further polarization of its politics, like the United States, which has seen the urban-rural divide become the liberal-conservative divide? During the 2015 election campaign, the Harper government used tactics that urban voters rejected. The Conservatives didn't win a single seat in the 3 big cities. What will they do for cities that will get them elected to government this time? Bonnie and Andrew are spending the day together, rare for rival politicians. Will they butt heads, or might they find common ground?
I'm going to meet up with the mayor of Mississauga, Bonnie Crombie. We actually served together for a few years in the House of Commons. She used to be the MP for one of the Mississauga ridings.
Excited to learn a little bit more about Andrew's riding and all it encompasses. I know that he has an urban and a rural riding, so it'll be very interesting.
A lot of times people on different ends of the spectrum have a lot more in common than they might realize.
I hope that Andrew and I come together at the end of the day, and maybe there are some initiatives we can work on together. The previous administration, the Stephen Harper government, did not regard cities in the same way. They didn't recognize that we were the engines that drove the economy.
It's essential, I think, in Canada that every party that wants to form government can show that it can bridge the divide between all aspects of Canada, so west and east, urban, rural, French, English.
I am nonpartisan. I do what's in the best interest of my city, and I'm willing to take funding from any level of government that's willing to support progress for cities.
Hey!
Andrew, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Nice
Good
to see you. Two times.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Is this your first time in Regina?
This is my first time in Regina.
Well, welcome, welcome.
Well, thank you. Nice to see you.
Good to
I
see
don't
you
think
too.
we've seen those beautiful blue eyes in a while. Kind of interesting following our careers because we were both members of Parliament, and you went on to be Deputy Speaker and now leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, and I'm humble mayor.
No, but you get the better, I've always thought mayors get the best title. Your worship.
Your worship,
Your worship.
yes. Niagara-on-the-Lake, they still have the title Lord Mayor.
Lord Mayor, oh wow.
Lord Mayor, that's pretty interesting.
You've got to find a way to get that in. Lord, your worship.
No, that's a little too high for me.
And what are your thoughts when you think of Saskatchewan, when you think of Regina? What are you expecting today? What are some of the things you're kind of frame of?
So I don't have any expectations. I have some ideas on what we might be doing. I've been to Saskatoon, so I know a little bit about Saskatchewan, and of course I know that the population of Saskatchewan equals the population of the region of Peel. I hope to learn more about your issues. I hope that you will have a platform that will continue to invest in cities as the engines of our economy. Your predecessor didn't believe in that quite as much.
Well, we might have to have our first point of disagreement there. I think if you go back and look at the investments made in the GTA under...
Certainly Mississauga benefited, so...
Well, I think if you compare the dollars flowing under our previous government versus what's happening now, I'd be happy to stack up that record. You know what? I'm going to come to Mississauga well-armed with some facts.
You're going to come with some stats, because certainly I can give you those stats that's coming in today, and it's pretty significant. It has made an incredible difference in Mississauga.
You haven't left that, you didn't leave that
Feisty
behind in
spirit.
Ottawa when you left
I
the
am
Liberal
completely nonpartisan. I'm willing to take anyone's funding, Conservative, Liberal, NDP funding to our cities. I'm willing to, with an open hands, open arms.
Excellent, like most mayors.
Yes. We're very pragmatic at the municipal level.
Well, we've got a few stops planned. Probably should get going.
Okay.
And then
Well,
I can start to
killing
show you more of what we've been talking about.
I look forward to it. Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks. Hey. I believe it's my job to say, okay, look, I get it. You know, if you'd like to do something else on this policy or on this issue, fine. But look at all the other things we agree on. That's always been my goal, and it has been very successful. And unfortunately, you know, we did have one person who decided to put their own ambitions ahead of that, and has now made that choice.
What do you think his comments say about the current state of the Conservative movement in Canada, and perhaps within your own party at this point?
The Conservative Party of Canada has always celebrated people coming from all over the world to come and share in what this country has to offer. The fundamental difference between our party and the Liberals is that we believe that you can have both diversity and unity. You can promote the embracing of the fundamental Canadian principles that have made our country great. I'm glad we live in a country where people can come, practice their faith, pass on their cultural traditions, and that is an important. And that is important. I think Canadians know our record on this. The Conservative Party is the party of firsts. We have so many firsts. We have the first senator of Pakistani origin. We have the first Muslim member of Parliament. Conservative Party had the first turban Sikh in cabinet.
We took a little bit of time away from our blind date so he could handle an issue that was erupting through a caucus member of his that went sideways and had their own agenda and had their own views particularly about, it was immigration and newcomers.
I believe that you can have both a policy that is embracing of people coming to this country from all over the world, while at the same time preserving our Canadian identity.
What would you say to those people who think that Mr. Bernier should be held accountable?
So this is us?
Yes, this is us. Thank you. I'll let you drive. So I know you can't tell me where we're going, but you can tell me how many more stops we have, perhaps, and then give me a general overview of what we might be seeing.
So we've got 3-ish stops.
Andrew's riding straddles both urban Regina and the rural Qu'Appelle region. Andrew wants Bonnie to get to know 2 of the people that help feed Mississaugans and other urban Canadians, Farron Jones and his neighbor, Stephen Graham.
Hi there, I'm Bonnie
Sorry.
Crombie.
Nice to meet you,
Terrible.
Bonnie.
Nice to meet you.
Farron Jones.
So we're on a date, we're on a blind date.
We're on a blind date.
Wow.
And you were our first pit stop.
Wow.
And Farron, you've been here for, remind me how long?
We came here in 2006.
What's your specialty here? Is it wheat or barley or both? Or...
I guess we're the canola.
You're the canola.
It is our main go-to crop,
I see.
supplemented with wheat and flax, and my neighbor does the soybean.
Oh, the soybean?
The young guy keeps us looking over the fence to see what he's up to.
And how have the prices changed over the decade that you've been here?
You know, I think maybe slowly increasing. Our margins are still quite tight,
right,
for the most part.
When you are a farm family, your business is not just on the line, your home is on the line. You know, your entire operation, you live at work, you know, and you've got your home quarter, and that's part of your operation, and the pressure on that is intense.
Is there still wheat marketing boards out here?
Well, one of the things that the previous Conservative government gave to farmers was freedom and choice, and the ability to go outside of the wheat board.
It was a breath of fresh air. We're in control of when we do it, how we do it, the buyers we choose to deal with.
You said you specialize in canola, but we were driving in. What do you have on either side of the road?
That's a newer variety of hard red spring wheat.
Okay.
Spring wheat.
We'd like to take you out
Sure.
and show you a little bit of what we have planned for you.
Okay.
You guys on your date.
Wow. Well, this is beautiful. You can just
Very
see
peaceful.
for miles.
You mentioned that this is a variety that's only been around, you say, 2 or 3 years. And that's something I've thought maybe people across Canada don't realize how much science goes into crop development, the research that goes into getting the most we can out of it.
Too, I think.
Yeah.
The end user is asking us, when it comes to wheat, to produce the best quality plus protein. They want the plant protein. They're paying a premium for the protein.
And how do you achieve that higher protein content?
Inputs, usually the nitrogen. You'll try to regulate that nitrogen level. We took a real gamble this spring, being so dry, all that extra nitrogen could backfire. That's the gamble and some of the challenges we face. It's a little bit of a roll of dice and hope for the best, you know, a lot of the time. So
The variables, I have so much respect for agricultural producers of any kind,
for
because
sure.
the variables are all out of your control. So I thought it would be great for you to come out and see where it all begins, because there are so many jobs in Ontario thanks to our agricultural sector here, and a lot of this wheat will end up in value-added processing plants, millers throughout Ontario, distribution in Mississauga, and all the supply chain into retail. And I think it's important for people in Canada to realize how interconnected our economy is, and for people who live in a large urban area to know that their job may not be directly dependent on the types of crops that come off here, but just 1 or 2 steps removed, it really does matter. So here it is. This is where a lot of the economic activity, the wealth that's created in Canada that many people get to benefit from, starts right here with checking the weather, with getting the inputs right, with choosing the varieties. And that wheat you were holding there may end up in a loaf of bread in a Loblaws in Ontario.
Since Andrew wants Bonnie to experience what farmers do every day, he's asked Farron's wife, Patricia, to show Bonnie how to drive the combine.
It's very slow. It's very slow, yeah. Yep. There you go. Yeah, perfect. It's nice and slow for them as well. Lots of a little quicker. Wow. That's spectacular. You may want to give them a good job. You know, if there were a logical successor at this point, maybe, but...
Oh, here's Andrew.
He wants a photo.
Yeah.
Oh, what's going on?
Pull that right back into that slot. I'll
Push this sheet.
Yes.
I'll put it up. Awesome, thank you. Anytime. I'm invited back. She said I did a great job. I could give up my day job. I was very proud to drive that combine, I'll tell you, and it was much more modern and sophisticated than I had ever imagined. And boy, I was shocked to find out how expensive the equipment was as well. I think they paid almost $500,000 for that combine, and they purchased it secondhand.
Before their goodbyes, Andrew wants Bonnie to see a place that houses a football team for which he now bleeds green.
Saskatchewan Rough Riders.
So I'm not sure if you wear a lot of ball caps, if you have use for them. I thought this would be a great way
well, thank
to
you. But great.
remember the visit.
Yes,
and
great memory from our great date, our blind date
Yes,
together.
yeah.
All right, so I'll put it on in your honor.
Fantastic. Honorary
There
member
we
of
go.
Rider Nation. I really enjoyed today. I really enjoyed
did
kind of
too.
showing off a little bit about what Regina Capel's all about, what rural Saskatchewan
Really impressive.
is all about.
Well, I thank you for that, and I certainly will, and I look forward to bringing you to Mississauga.
Now it's Bonnie's turn.
My mom was one of 9 kids that was raised here in Mississauga. I'm co-author owner of a very, very small house. And I used to spend my summers here. Summers and often a week or so at Christmas time as well. I love coming back.
So, welcome to Mississauga.
Thank you.
For your portion of our blind date. Welcome to the Mississauga International Airport, like we like to call it here in Mississauga. I've got a really exciting day planned for you.
Great.
Can't tell you what it is, but you're going to love it.
She wants Andrew to realize just how challenging affordable housing is for everyone in fast-growing cities like Mississauga.
Okay, so here's our home. 3 plus 2 bedrooms, meaning den, etc. 4 baths, typical suburban home. So the challenge for you is, what would this home cost in Regina? And what do you think the value of the price of this home is here in Mississauga?
You're gonna put me on the spot.
Yeah.
This is really tough because the housing prices in Regina have also
Have
went through a
escalated?
period. I would guess in Regina, depending on the neighborhood, you know, we'd probably be looking at about 400. It would be
Right.
about a ballpark guess.
And so, given that this is Mississauga, what do you think this home would sell for
Gosh,
here in
I
Mississauga?
don't even want to guess. 'Cause
Ballpark figure.
I don't even want to guess. You're gonna much more.
Much more.
Much more.
Much more. Would it surprise you if I told you it was $900,000?
Oh my goodness.
$900,000. The average price of home in Mississauga is $750,000. And I remember thinking that the average salaries, average income in Regina are even a little bit higher than in Mississauga. So affordability is a real challenge, and I think that opened his eyes today on really the impact. When we say people can't afford the cost of living in cities, I think that dramatically opened his eyes on what that challenge really looked like. So you can see that families are stretched, and that means they're going into debt to buy homes.
That affordability crunch is a huge piece
the onus
of
that
what
puts
we're going to be
on there.
speaking to in the next election.
I
Because,
hope.
yeah, it's there's so the idea that each generation has it a little bit better than the previous. We're at this juncture where the people don't have that confidence because of things like housing prices. The cost of living has gone up.
So, are you ready for our next song?
I am.
Okay.
You know,
in anticipation, I'm not allowed to tell
Really,
you.
not even like a
No,
hint.
not a little hint.
20 questions type of thing.
Nope. I wanted to show him here, Ontario, during one of the peak periods, and we do get so much traffic and congestion on that route. We still continue to invest. I tried to impress upon him that all my gas tax money goes into transit, and then last year we increased our service by 46,000 hours of service.
46,000 hours of...
We added
You added
46,000 hours of service.
of service, so
Oh, we have about 700 buses.
very comprehensive network.
We do. Good job.
Okay.
There we go. We are taking the number 19 bus traveling from the Port Credit GO train station north along here, Ontario, to our downtown transit hub. How are you? Come on and join us. So certainly when I was a member of parliament, I didn't see the kind of engagements with cities. There wasn't a cities agenda. So certainly large capital projects, inspirational projects like our light rail transit, we can't fund. We have to look to other levels of government to do so. So that's what I tried to impress upon him, that we are the engines of the economy. He needs to consider the agenda that cities have. So this is here, Ontario. It is one of our primary boulevards. One of the reasons we were selected for light rail transit, LRT, is because this is the biggest corridor, most highly frequented corridor in Mississauga. 60,000 people ride the bus each and every day.
Mississauga's provincially funded LRT project will run the entire north-south length of the city.
In the next hour, this corridor gets so busy. And that's why we need to get people out of their cars and onto public transit. You know, a bus will fit 50 people, the LRT will fit 200. And this will really become the north-south spine of all the regionally integrated transit routes. You can see this is a busy time. See how important it is that we have the LRT.
Ladies and gentlemen, all the way back so I can get more people on, please. Keep moving back. There's no more room.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Mayor Crombie. This is Andrew Scheer, leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. We wanted to give him an experience of riding our Mississauga My Way buses. All right.
That's right. Let's sing some bus driving songs.
In a province like Saskatchewan, the city of like Regina, yes, we have public transit. To think that an infrastructure program managed by the federal government or funded by the federal government should be solely focused on that would leave many regions out in the cold, and they wouldn't be able to benefit from that. They have other needs.
So the key to this period of time on routes like this is frequency.
That's right.
If I'm at that stop and I don't get on, but I know there's another one in 4 or 5 minutes,
So
then
the train will change all that.
is our stop?
This is it.
Thanks again. Okay. All right. I've always thought that when it comes to federal government programs, when you're earmarking money to a province, let the province decide how much of a mix they want with public transit and, say, new road construction or other types of projects. Because in a province like Saskatchewan,
Right.
you know, in Regina, our public transit needs are just vastly different.
Correct.
And
So sure.
You don't want empty buses running up and down just for the sake of saying you spent the money.
We need something along this corridor, and that's what's been keeping me up at night worrying about building in the transportation infrastructure at the same time the developments are being built, not after.
Next, Bonnie takes Andrew to the waterfront to show him one of the most important developments for the future of her city.
All right. So welcome to Lakeview. This is a
Wow.
former power plant. Let's wave at our friends in my suburb over there, John Tory.
The greater Mississauga area.
Greater Mississauga area. I like that. I think I'll adopt it.
So when I was a kid, we never thought of going down there because it looked very uninviting and it was not the type of place you'd want to go, play in the park type of thing.
To Fabio Mazzucco and Brian Sutherland. Fabio.
Sure, nice to meet you.
Brian, this is Andrew Scheer, obviously.
Welcome to Inspiration Point, Canada's next great waterfront community, Lakeview Village. 67 acres of this waterfront, including this pier, will be dedicated back to the city of Mississauga for use as parks, for arts and culture. There'll be an innovation corridor, potentially a post-secondary education campus.
Opportunities for a marina, looking at really maximizing the opportunities to get people back down to the waterfront of this area of Mississauga. It's been cut off for years.
Where in the world do you have 250 acres, really, for waterfront redevelopment?
In this urban setting?
Yeah.
It looks like you're going to preserve the piers.
Yes.
Yes. Yep. Isn't it so exciting? We all just want to get it built and move in as well. Look at this. Cafes lining the streets, the boardwalks. But it also speaks to our infrastructure needs and how we have to get it right the first time. We don't want to make mistakes of other communities have made. And we do need the assistance of other orders of government, provincial, federal government, particularly with our transportation needs, our infrastructure needs.
So the question is, what level of government pays for what? And what does the private sector pay for? There are some developers there that are going to make a lot of money building buildings and selling real estate. And that's great. That's part of our economy. That's going to create lots of jobs. And no one disputes that they should be able to do that. So at what point does government step in to facilitate? Not that we want to subsidize, but to make sure that there are the services that go along with that.
Andrew, I heard while Madam Mayor was in Saskatchewan, you had a chance to drive on a farming combine.
Yes, up on a combine. She was helping to take the crop off.
Well, we decided we'd step it up a notch.
Almost as good as driving a combine.
This is pretty neat.
I think I'm a better combine driver, must say. Yes, a little steadier.
I will have you know that there are no massive trenches full of water while you're combine.
You remember where that emergency brake is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
You don't want a by-election?
All right, now you remember where the brake is? Yes.
There it is.
Good job.
I've never let me drive that combine, so I'm very, very envious of the fact that she got to. But I'm glad I got to take the rock truck out for a rip today.
Everyone's still alive.
The issues of building transit and transportation and infrastructure on a budget that was designed to really provide community services and programs at libraries and rinks and arenas. Success!
I'm quite confident that a Conservative government in 2019 would absolutely sit down with Mayor Crombie and say, okay, what have you got? What's the pitch? What do you need? Where does that fit in with a fiscal framework that we're dealing with federally and in a program that would treat people fairly across the country?
All right, let's go. I hope that I opened Andrew Scheer's eyes to the needs and the demands and the challenges that big cities face.
There is irrefutable scientific evidence that climate change is real. Its effects are felt everywhere, and Canada is no exception. One of the key contributors to the rise in global temperatures is carbon dioxide, or CO2, greenhouse gas emissions that come from the burning of fossil fuels. How can damage to the environment be managed, and what role do governments play in the fight against global climate change? Should private citizens and corporations be trusted to clean up their ways? Or should they be taxed for their CO2 emissions? Our experiment plays political Cupid by taking two opposing politicians out of their comfort zone.
Ah, the good stuff.
But I'm not arguing against the concept of electric vehicles.
And forces them to listen to one another.
I think we'd all agree it would be a better world with less carbon in the air.
We're sending them on a series of platonic dates to solve the thorniest issues facing Canadians.
Well, this is a crucial question for Canada.
Who will seduce the other with logic or passion? And what surprises are in store? This is Political Blind Date.
I am the Member of Parliament for Lakeland, and I'm the Shadow Minister for Natural Resources for the official opposition. And I represent a big rural riding in northeast Alberta, where I grew up and where I continue to live with my husband on our farm just east of the town of Two Hills. Well, I guess I was always interested in politics and enjoyed social studies. At school, we always talked about current events and politics around the dinner table at home. My grandmother had been the first female mayor of Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. My mom was a public school trustee. My dad was involved with volunteering with a local member of parliament. So it was easy for me to see how a person could get involved in politics and make an impact. And I think sometimes people don't get involved because they just aren't asked or they don't know how.
The Liberals' anti-energy agenda is obvious. Their carbon tax undermines Canada's competitiveness and makes everything more expensive for everyone. When will the Liberals finally champion Canadian energy, Canadian innovation, and Canadian jobs?
I'm Arthur Potts, and I'm the Member of Provincial Parliament for Beaches East York. Quite an accidental thing. The election was called 3 years ago. They didn't have a candidate. They asked me to run, and my first reaction was, I don't want to be an MPP. And I was told categorically, don't worry, you will not win, but we want you to wave the flag for the party. It's only 6 weeks. And I said, you know what? I could do that. Let's do it. It'd be good for my business. And we worked hard, knocked on a lot of doors, and at the end of the day, I ended up winning by 481 votes, the smallest margin of victory of any Liberal in the House. And so that was a great thrill. And I woke up the next day and I said, man, am I ready for this? This new economy that we call the low-carbon economy is going to be 6-7 times bigger than the economy that brought smartphones into the world. It's huge, and we're going to need thousands and thousands of qualified people, great jobs, high-paying jobs in this new economy.
Experts indicate that worsening air pollution is causing more and more catastrophic climate change. But how can we reduce greenhouse gases? Many agree that fossil fuel users should be accountable for the damage, and it's time to put a price on pollution. The federal government in Ottawa is implementing a carbon tax that will set a price on carbon in provinces that do not implement their own system for reduction. The tax gives businesses and households an incentive to reduce pollution when doing so would cost less than paying the tax. But it's tricky. If the tax is too low, then polluters are likely to pay the tax and keep polluting. Too high, and you cripple businesses and families. That's why Ontario is implementing a system called cap and trade. The cap sets a maximum limit on provincial emissions and issues carbon permits to certain companies. The trade element allows companies that pollute more than their quota to purchase carbon permits from companies that produce less. Shannon and Arthur are spending the day together. Rare for rival politicians. Will they butt heads? Or might they find common ground?
I've heard of Shannon Stubbs. I haven't met her. I don't really know what she's done in the House and such. I'm looking forward to meeting for the first time.
Well, I've never met Arthur before, so I'm looking forward to it and hopefully have a friendly debate about some of the issues facing my constituents.
The time has come, I think, where Albertans will have no choice. The economics of oil is disappearing, and I'm hoping those people get jobs in the clean economy as opposed to a dirty economy.
The carbon tax debate can become polarized, and I hope right off the bat that we have a mutual understanding that both of our priorities are environmental stewardship and economic growth.
I don't know what her mindset really is. I'm looking forward to hearing it. I think all thoughtful Canadians, when they look at the evidence of what the price of energy is on renewables, will realize that you don't want to be putting poison in the air.
I just have to watch out that I don't get too aggressive or hostile and focus on being a good date, too. Here goes. Hopefully we'll get along.
I do have a little sense of apprehension or just excitement. I can just feel it. I'm excited, I guess. A great spot. You must be Shannon. What
Nice
a pleasure
to
to meet you. Thank you for inviting me to Athabasca.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming.
Delighted to be here.
You know, I didn't have too many preconceived notions. I knew a little bit about his work.
Quite frankly, she wasn't anything like I thought she was going to be. Her pictures don't do her justice on their website. Young, pretty, dynamic woman and full of energy.
I don't think I've ever been to Athabasca before, so this is really exciting. Now, my
Have you
riding,
been to Alberta before?
Actually, I worked out here on the oil rigs for a better part of 6 months.
Oh, you did?
I was only 18 at the time, but very grateful to the industry because it put me through a trip to Europe and my first year of university. So
Wow, good for you.
And are you married?
We got married when I was in the nomination campaign.
Nice.
And so my terrible last name, Stubbs, is actually my maiden name. And as you can imagine, as a short girl with that last name, I looked forward my whole life to taking on the name of like Smith or Jones. But meeting with the Reverend the week before the wedding, he said, how do you want me to introduce you guys? And I said, oh, Shannon Saskew. And then Shane looked at me and said, we have 4,500 lip pieces with the last name Stubbs on it. We could discuss this later.
She was very warm, very receiving, and sat down, and we immediately started to engage in a conversation. I could see she was well prepared for it.
I hope that my constituents will be able to express their views today about their worries of the economic consequences of the carbon tax.
We all have to agree that putting poison in the air is a bad thing. You know, whether that poison's coal, fumes.
I think it doesn't make moral or economic or environmental sense to make oil and gas development in Canada even more difficult when those are the very investors that are leading the way in developing renewable and alternative technologies. Unless you think it's only governments that should just take hundreds of millions of dollars, make everything more expensive for citizens, and pick winners and losers for
When we
everyday
brought the
Canadians.
carbon tax in at 4.3 cents, gasoline in Ontario was about 98 cents. So that took it to $1.02. Right now, after the hurricanes and such, where it spiked to 125, it's down in the $4, $3 level. It hasn't really been noticed.
Right, which means people aren't going to reduce their gasoline purchases, which means it's not going to do what you say it's supposed to do.
They're not reducing their gasoline purchases, but we're taking that money, we're investing it in social housing, energy retrofits. We're investing in First Nations, energy retrofits, new ways of producing, getting them off diesel, putting them into solar and batteries. We're using that money to help the cement industry and other major emitters reduce their carbon impact. So we're having very direct
There's
impact.
probably expertise in Alberta that could assist
I'm sure there
Ontarians
is.
in
I have
gas
a lot of
development.
respect for the great work that's been done in Alberta with oil. My issue is it's becoming redundant because sustainable technologies are going to take over the needs.
It's not becoming redundant when the entire world is going to continue to demand oil and gas for the next half century.
Price of gas fluctuates far more than our carbon price will ever have an impact, and it's resulting in really meaningful reductions in CO2 in Ontario.
So what my constituents would say to that is you've proven their point that the carbon tax is a cash grab for government revenue generation to fund their pet projects.
That's been fun. I hear you've got some people that you want me to meet.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
He's very likable, and with his nice blue eyes and his big smile, but his policy positions are a threat to, you know, the livelihoods of the people that I represent.
So, okay if I drive?
Yeah, you should drive.
I'll let you go over to the car. Oh, this is great. I'm looking forward to the trip, and
My constituents elected me to fight for them, so I allow the feisty part of myself to show.
it's funny. I don't use the word fight ever. Like, I think it's too aggressive. I always talk about I'm a strong advocate. And I advocate for this, that, because fighting, for me, it intones this violence, which I think we need to move away from, particularly in politics, as people get so cynical about politics and politicians. It's a very left-wing thing, I find, to do. They always talk about, we're fighting for justice, we're fighting for this.
Oh, we had a conversation at one point where I used the words fighting for my constituents, and that's what I think I was elected to do. And he said he thought that was a word that sort of had violent or aggressive connotations, and he didn't prefer to use that. And I thought maybe that's one of those instances in which there might be a difference between rural Alberta and downtown Toronto, because for sure my rural Alberta constituents want me to fight on their behalf.
Shannon's constituency is one of the largest in Canada. It takes more than 4.5 hours just to drive across it.
I don't think I've ever driven over a complete field like this. We don't, well, maybe as a kid. I was in my souped-up Fairlane with speakers in the back and heading off on a different kind of blind date.
Yeah.
Wasn't a
Like
political
an
blind date. An actual date, yeah.
Happy day!
Wow, look at this country.
Yes!
This is incredible.
I'd just like you to meet my friends, the Olsen family.
Hi there.
Go on,
Arthur
Travis
Potts.
Olsen.
Hi, Travis.
Nice to meet you. This is Claire. Hi, Claire.
Travis, his wife, and twin daughters live near Athabasca, Alberta, on a farm with more than 1,200 Black Angus cattle.
Travis was an excellent choice from his perspective of what she was trying to put down. He had his wife there and his 2 lovely children. He put a family face to it. So, your heart bleeds for that.
No, I bet your kids have named every one of these cows.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
But it was important for me to ensure the Olsens could talk to Arthur about the very real impacts on their family and on their business because of the carbon tax.
One of the big keys of our operation has been to extend the grazing season. So not only is it good for us economically, it's really good for the environment. The typical traditional part of agriculture was you would go into a crop like this, you'd bale it, and that involves a ton of tractors and fossil fuel and everything that we want to avoid doing. Right. I want to avoid doing it as a producer because it costs me money.
Here's a guy who's already done everything he can to reduce his use on fossil fuels. He free-range grazes his cattle, and they're there all winter long. So he's already reduced his carbon footprint dramatically.
The carbon tax at $50 a ton, it's going to cost our family over $100,000 a year.
Yeah, at $50 a ton. Probably surprised you don't know that in Ontario, we're premising our plan on $17 and not $50, and that's because cap and trade allows you to get more efficient carbon reductions with less money.
So, and I guess my biggest worry that I've got with it is...
But the reason you're doing the calculation at the $50 is because the federal Liberals are forcing a $50 a ton carbon tax.
And that's what they also said to Ontario, because you have a cap and trade, you're doing it differently, you're going to meet your objectives without having to go to $50. You're free to do so. So every other province outside of Quebec and Ontario, if they go that route, will be paying it at $50, but we're doing it at $17.
Right. But whether you're at $50 a ton or $17 a ton, my big concern is I'm not competing just within Alberta or just within Western Canada or just within Canada. We're competing on a North American marketplace. And when you tax me at a much higher rate for something like carbon, and my competitors across the US border that are producing the exact same product that we are, that don't pay a carbon tax.
Yet.
You're right, yeah, exactly. So if everybody paid a carbon tax, everybody in the world, then I would be game. And we have to be able to solve the world's problems, whether it's carbon or methane or non-renewable fossil fuel use. We have to do it together. But the problem is the losers are us. If I have a cement business or an oil business, I can pick up and move from Alberta to Texas if the taxes get too high. I can't move my ranch.
No, I appreciate that. Nor do we want you to.
Yeah, right. Good point.
But so the point is, and I love the fact that you come to the fact that you're a businessman. If I could show you how to get all the energy you needed here at half the price you're paying for a liter of oil, wouldn't that be a good thing? Particularly that wasn't polluting the environment. So if you could get wind and solar with battery storage power here to run all your electrical stuff, and if you could take your surplus electricity and make hydrogen that you could fuel your tractor with, cheaper than buying fossil fuel, would you do it?
If there's an economic argument, I'll look at any of those options. You have to forgive me if I'm a little
but see, that technology is coming, and that's one of the roles I think government plays, is bringing that new technology and showing you how you can do better using less fossil fuel and using sustainable energies.
So there's these claims that the technology is coming, but in the meanwhile, you're going to cost the Olsen family $150,000 a year.
No, I appreciate that. There'll be disruption.
One thing you said,
talking about governments picking it winners and losers, they're making losers of families like this.
We employ 9 people full-time. This is our livelihoods. This is what we do. This is what we love to do. We've been here 106 years on this ranch. and we just want to make a living.
Either they give up a whole bunch of things in their lives to be able to make those costs, or having to consider shutting down their generational, family farm operation.
I've heard the message very, very clearly that we need to transition in a way that gets the best results from a carbon perspective while protecting people's lives and not making the transition too difficult.
So it was great meeting Travis, and at the end, he also said, listen, I appreciate you explaining it to me that way. I hadn't thought of it quite like that.
Because we love what you do.
That's good.
Nice to meet
Well, it's
you.
nice to meet you. Thanks. Okay, we have a surprise for you, though.
Uh-oh. I love surprises.
We have a surprise for you. Okay, you all right?
Am I going to ride one of these things? Because,
No,
I might be able to.
And I thought we were on our way, but that's when he said, no, I've got another job for you.
So we got some calves back here, and they just need a vaccination, so we're going to vaccinate them.
Well, Trav is going to involve Arthur in vaccinating a calf, I think. And just to be fair to Arthur, I have not ever done that either myself.
This is fantastic. The good stuff.
So what you're going to do, this is a subcutaneous injection, so
Right.
you're going to grab the skin, you're going to pull it back, you're going to go in the base, and then you just give a little pull. Want to try it?
Sure.
It looked easy enough, so I grabbed the cow's hide, pulled it away, stuck in the needle, and just as I was about to stick the needle, the cow bucked a little bit. My hand slipped off, and I ended up pushing the needle right through my index finger on the left-hand side. And I got, 2 pricks to show it.
Perfect.
Well, one thing, I'm not going to get typhoid. Or whatever the cows get. Mad cow disease.
Yeah,
right?
we'll get that.
Although I know they would be reluctant to ever vote Liberal, I think at least I got some begrudgingly respect from both of them while I was out there.
When's the next election?
June.
If it doesn't work out, you come get a job here.
I'd be happy to.
That's good. Good for you.
Thank goodness it wasn't a worse outcome, so I thought he handled that like a champion, really.
Well, this has been a ton of fun.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed meeting you and coming out to Alberta. So I hope when we get back to Toronto, we'll be there next week. We'll see you next week, and I'll introduce you to some people doing some interesting work, and look forward to having those conversations.
Yeah, well, that sounds good. I look forward to seeing you in Toronto.
Give us a hug, warm up. You look freezing.
yeah.
It is cold out here, but there's no snow. So this is great. So let's head back and do it.
Now it's Arthur's turn back in Toronto, the home to all kinds of green economy initiatives supported by Ontario's cap-and-trade regime.
This is where you'll see the future of transportation.
And then, of course, we have the vehicles outside available for test drive. And so people can come to one place, test drive all the different makes and models of cars, sort of figure out which one might be for them, and then we refer them to a dealer that carries the car. The cap-and-trade money is paying for the rebates. The rebate has been extremely effective. This quarter, Ontario sold more EVs than Quebec, which is a first. In Ontario, there's about 15,000 EVs on the road. That counts 100% electric and plug-in hybrid, but out of the population, it's about 1%. It's a small percentage right now. It's really growing, though. It's doubling annually.
She said 1% of Ontario drivers have electric cars and hybrid vehicles. What will be the scale up required in the provision of electricity to, say, transition like all Ontario drivers?
Right now in Ontario, we're in a bit of a unique situation. Though some other provinces have this, we have a big surplus of electricity at night. EV drivers, mostly it's convenient to plug in at night. So there's a really good match between our grid and the cars. Based on the analysis that we've seen, we could accommodate about half of Ontarians driving EV before we have any real big need for new supply.
When the price is affordable, people will take it up. And so this helps make sure people know that, for instance, driving an electric car is affordable today.
Although she hates driving in the city, Shannon agrees to take an electric car for a spin.
Yeah, it's super quiet.
Speed bump. But you weren't speeding.
I wasn't speeding.
And it's zero emissions driving.
Yeah,
This is fantastic.
I like it. It would just be a matter of, being in a form of a vehicle that would be
usable and efficient for where I'm from, which is a very rural area. The market will ultimately determine the adaptability of that technology and about whether or not people will purchase those vehicles.
What was it Clara was saying, that she saves $4,000 a year? And these cars will go at least 500,000 kilometers. So you could keep this car for 10 years, you're saving $4,000 a year, that's $40,000. It completely pays for itself in gas savings. Pull into the right.
Turning right, that's natural for me, Arthur.
I had you believing in the car every time you went left. You went left, you went left.
Maybe that was...
But now you're going right again. I've lost
and
her.
I'm signaling because I get him.
That is a smooth, quiet ride. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much for visiting.
Our pleasure.
Okay, you take care.
Take care.
You want to drive? You did so well.
Go ahead, Arthur, you drive. I think it's just great and energizing and interesting to see all those advancements in technology and in innovation. But I'm not arguing against the concept of electric vehicles. Like, I think the possibility is exciting and fascinating.
But you're arguing against putting a little tax on
will do that.
You're arguing against putting a little tax on top of the cost of fossil fuels, which will spur all the investments in new technologies that will make the transformation happen faster. That's all I'm talking about. It's strictly transitional catalyst approach.
Except that we know
the carbon
from the
tax
timeline,
isn't shutting down people's businesses.
But we know from the timeline of the place that you just took me to that they existed before the introduction of the carbon tax and before the introduction of the cap and trade system.
The same thing as hydrogen cars.
So my point is they were already moving forward on that innovation, on that technology.
Not as fast as they are now.
What if we took, well, right, because they're getting money, like.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Because we're incenting people using a small tax on carbon to do the right thing and get out of carbon.
Sometimes there were a couple of heated exchanges, I guess, because for me, the policy positions that he's advancing, the end result is a risk to the livelihoods of the people that I represent.
Arthur introduces Shannon to a company that is developing a new kind of fuel that might be a clean replacement for fossil fuels.
This is our production plant here in Canada. Battery and fuel cell technology work together to deliver electrical energy for electric mobility.
Right.
Lots of people talk about batteries and battery electric vehicles, but there is another way to electrify transport which we think is better, and that's to use fuel cells. So batteries and fuel cell technology work together to deliver electrified transport. And the car can go just as far, or the bus or the truck can go just as far on hydrogen as it can on gasoline or diesel. So we're delivering the same user experience, but we're doing it in a clean way with hydrogen gas. And zero emissions. So the only emission from a hydrogen fuel cell is pure water vapor.
If you were to do this in Alberta, where energy is generated 85% carbon sources, does it have the same benefit?
Very unique situation in Alberta where you have a true energy market where the price is the price. And that actually also creates an opportunity for us to do energy storage and power to gas and deliver value, because when something's in surplus in Alberta, the price goes very low. When it's in high demand, the price goes very high. And in that real market situation, we can still deliver value. So again, hydrogen is not a science project and it's not new. We've been doing this for almost 25 years now. And as a mature technology, we're ready to deliver value.
All these forms of energy generation and production are important, and the government shouldn't be trying to stop one or end one. It should be providing incentives so innovators and researchers and technology developers can do their work.
I'm not saying wholesale change. I'm not saying, we turn off the tap on oil. What I'm saying is we need signals to say this is part of our future, and we need to shift the policy in that direction so that these new innovations get adopted and we learn how to use them, service them, build them, deploy them. There's lots of learning in these transitions and changes, and government is an important part of signaling that change. That only comes about from, days like today when we have discussions with each other.
Well, this is a beautiful piece of technology, and appreciate you showing it to us. You can't stick your proverbial head in the oil sands. You got to lift it up, see the changes that are coming, and embrace them. That's what we've done in Ontario. I don't mean disrespect to the hard men and working men and women in the oil industry, but times are really changing, and we need to transition from an oil-based economy to a sustainable energy economy, a low fossil fuel economy.
And so what I hope to at least have compelled Arthur on is that it's the diversity of energy production in Canada, which is our strength, and that as politicians, we should be championing all of the different economic opportunities and futures that are diverse across Canada in our different provinces and our different communities.
Canada's greatest strength is our diversity right across the country, and that goes for our diverse energy generation in every community and every province too.
Exactly. So listen, this has been fun. I hope we'll get to see each other again when I get up to Ottawa, or if I get to Northern Alberta. Anytime you're in Toronto, do come see me.
That sounds good.
It was so much fun. Cheers, see you. Cheers. All right.
Okay, take care. Wait, which way are we going? I'm
Well,
gonna
I've
go
gotta go this
right,
way.
and you're gonna go left.
You can go left.
Thank you. I'm not going left.
I've had a lot of fun with Arthur, and he's very likable and very engaging, and I think that we got along for the most part.
People have a very, very bad view of most politicians. So if this helps people see that politicians are real people and have a sense of humor and are honestly trying to do the best they can, not just for their constituents, but for the country and the province as a whole, I think that's a positive thing.
Canada's largest city is at a population tipping point and will surpass 3 million residents this year. Living in the city, as well as paying for its services, has never been more expensive. Will the existing system financing the city budget be enough for future growth and to take care of its residents? Our experiment plays political Cupid by taking two opposing politicians out of their comfort zone and forces them to listen to one another.
We're on a date to figure it out.
That's what we're trying to figure out.
And if we don't figure it out, we're breaking up.
We're sending them on a series of platonic dates to solve the thorniest issues facing Canadians.
I do not want to raise your taxes unless I'm confident that we are managing the city well.
Welcome to New York.
Welcome to New York.
Jump in.
Who will seduce the other with logic or passion? And what surprises are in store? This is Political Blind Date.
I have a lot of East Coast blood in me. I was born in Halifax, Nova Scotia, but actually moved to Toronto when I was 2 weeks old. I got my degree in fine art. I consider myself an artist. I'm a painter. I'm also a drummer on the side, but music and art and my creativity actually have been an incredibly important part of my life. But it's my family. It's my life at home that I absolutely cherish. The opportunity to come home, to close all the doors away from the public. I have my wife, I have my 2 children, I have my stepson, and my wife has 3 kids. So we have a Brady Bunch thing going on. And what I like about my job is I have the ability to make a difference, not only for myself, not only for my family, but I look at my grandkids. I decided to get into public life many, many years ago. Number one, because I think it's important, but it was to make a difference. The first thing I do when I'm looking to balance the budget, I look at ways to save money. I look at ways to find efficiencies. The last thing I would want to do for my constituency, the people that I represent across the city and in my ward, is to raise taxes. So I always look at trying to keep taxes as low as possible.
I am a counselor in the new area called Don Valley North. It's just north of where I grew up. I was a mom who tended to be an activist, but so while I was out there, things started to change. A new premier came in, Mike Harris. He immediately went on the attack in terms of education, and I had small children. One with special needs. My daughter had just been diagnosed with autism, and so I got very involved politically, and every time I spoke, someone would say, "You should not be talking to trustees, you should be one." I got the job of chair of the budget committee. Unfortunately for me, that term included the global financial crisis happening in the middle of it. And so I got to wear the introduction of land transfer tax. And it was difficult, but I'm proud of what I did because we had that new stream of revenue, and it's really helped the city stabilize its finances ever since. If we start to look at the way other cities fund themselves, which is to go beyond property tax, there actually is a future for the large city model in Canada, and we really need to make the big move now.
Toronto is the fastest growing city in North America. Its unprecedented growth has put tremendous pressure on the city's finances. Toronto survives primarily on its property taxes, user fees, and provincial and federal subsidies and grants. The city is only allowed to collect its two taxes with the permission of the province through the Toronto Act. If it wants to impose other taxes, it needs to ask permission. The answer is usually no. But now that the province is cutting nearly $200 million a year in funding to Toronto, can the city continue to deliver services on its limited tax tools? Does Toronto need to join the company of other big cities in the world and use new revenue options in order to thrive? And will the city's government be brave enough to go to the province and ask for permission to impose the new taxes it needs? Gary and Shelley are spending the day together, rare for rival politicians. Will they butt heads? Or might they find common ground?
We have differing views on how to balance the budget, on taxation.
We've fought with each other in City Council for really the last 8 years.
First premise is to keep taxes low. Shelley, on the other hand, would want to raise taxes.
He's a lot more quiet than I am and less inclined to sort of weave his family into the stories that he tells in speeches. He's more of a mystery to me than I am to him.
She definitely has her opinions. She's very outspoken, and she knows a lot. She's been around.
No? So we're doing it.
We're doing it. How are you?
Everyone's going to know a lot more about Gary by the end of this date.
So when was the last time you were on a blind date?
Well, as you know, I married my date for the prom, so it was a very long time ago.
Okay, well, I'm probably, early 20s, 35 years plus. But it's family that drives us, so I'm assuming when you first got involved in politics, there was a reason you want to make a difference. I get that. What drove me, and I don't know if you know, my daughter won't mind me saying this, but you knew she was born premature.
No, I didn't.
She's 25 now, but she was born premature. She's a little over a pound. She was 24 weeks, 23 and a half weeks. So back then she shouldn't have survived. If I was American, that would have cost me $1 million. My daughter wouldn't have survived. But the fact that we live in Ontario, we have a healthcare system. But I think that was a moment when I went, you know what, I need to give back to my community. I need to give back.
That gives me chills, because I know people have gone through that. So now I know you went through that. I have a picture of it.
Yeah, I mean, she's got a bit of cerebral palsy. I mean, it's manageable.
When Gary shared with me that he too has a daughter with special needs, I realized that we have a huge thing in common that we never realized before. I like bringing it back to the personal. I need this to be a great city because I don't want to have to get on a plane to visit my grandchildren. In 2030, I want this to be a place they can afford to live, can get work, and that's a decent life.
We need to figure out 2019 right now, but having those conversations about, and I think we're hearing more about the whole efficiency thing.
Yeah.
I hate to throw the TTC out there under the bus, but...
Pardon the pun.
Oh yeah, good pun. But people have asked me, and whether it's the police or the TTC, do you have confidence that that division is running as efficiently as possible? And unfortunately, I can't say that to all of them.
Efficiencies might get you so far, but they're not a long-range plan.
No.
Because we're always going to be faced with things. That's why I want to look at other revenue tools.
People are nervous. I'm getting phone calls that says, what does that mean? Does that mean you're going to raise my taxes? And I don't know if I can afford that.
We are addicted to growth.
Yeah.
That's why if growth is your thing, then you'd better account for it and be able to provide for that growing city, because you're going to continue to welcome people in. I think Canada is at a point now where it has to say, what is a city? If we have spiky cities all across this country, Vancouver, Calgary, and Edmonton, Winnipeg increasingly, ourselves, both Montreal and Quebec, we're all surviving on small town funding models.
What you and I are going to disagree on a number of things, and
Sure.
and I wouldn't want it any other way.
I would.
Begin
the nerve-wracking part of a blind date.
Begin the date and go off and meet some people.
You know me, I love to meet people.
Okay.
Gary wants Shelley to meet concerned taxpayers in his Scarborough ward on the east side of Toronto.
What I wanted to do with Shelley is to show her some of the struggles that people have in the city, and raising property taxes are incredibly challenging for them and other people.
Because anytime there's an increase, whether it's property taxes or anything else in the cost of living, it ultimately has an impact.
You've come to me frustrated sometimes, and
We've had our discussions
very
on that.
frustrated. Talk to me a bit about the kind of stuff that you sometimes see.
If I can use an example, there was a catch basin at the corner here that was collapsing. The grate had cracked,
Right.
so it was just a matter of time before somebody drove over it and got stuck in it.
Yeah.
So they sent the crews out, and they actually spent 3 weeks fixing it, and they rebuilt it 3 times. I estimate that catch basin cost between $30,000 and $35,000, and it's still not fixed properly. When I see stuff like that, I get very frustrated.
Yeah.
The one thing I will always say, I do not want to raise your taxes unless I'm confident that we are managing the city well. So when we're going through the process as well, we have to raise taxes, we have to find other revenues. You know, I kind of go, why are you doing that when there's so much waste? Focus inward and focus on getting your house in order.
Then you got to have a get the dead wood out of here
Yes.
department.
Yeah.
And we do.
You know,
I don't know if this fits into what you're talking about, but recently I've been involved with trying to clean the garbage out of the McCowan District Park and the trails, okay? Do you mean to say nobody's going around checking to make sure these aren't overflowing? You blame the people for dumping the stuff in the ground, but if you got these bins overflowing, where do you put the garbage then? Is it possible to get more garbage cans?
Do you know why there aren't garbage cans along the trail?
I don't know.
Efficiency. Emptying the waste receptacles, it went back and forth from let's not have parks do it, let's have solid waste do it. Let's give it back to parks, but they must spend fewer dollars on it. And so they militantly insist that the only way that's going to work is if the garbage cans are all at the edge of the park so a vehicle can get to them quick. Your solution is to put the garbage cans back in that position? We can. We just need to raise the budget a little bit to do that.
I mean, I understand where Shelley's coming from, that, you know, with efficiencies. You know, sometimes you have to spend more to make a little bit more, but I'm coming to you going, we have to add an extra 5% on that. You're still going to be challenged with that, and that's not something you'd be happy with.
Yeah, I wouldn't be happy with it.
Okay. What about you, Paul?
I like the word you use, Gary, is striking a balance and acknowledging the demands on the city, but also having respect for what people can afford and can't afford. Again, there's no easy fix to that, but you know, certainly there needs to be a conversation about it. You know, and people have to be reasonable.
And Keith wants accountability to be a big part of it. I hear that loud and clear.
This is my date here, so I get to control.
Sorry.
So it's okay. We're done. We have
that kind of a date.
Yeah, it's just.
They wanted to make sure that I understood this. We'll have a conversation about where money should come from in the city of Toronto, but I want accountability and I want a better quality of workmanship. He really held me to account right then and there in his living room.
But I think some of the bigger frustration sometimes with people like Keith, there's a sense sometimes of entitlement in the public sector. There's a sense of, well, you just, you know, you don't work as hard. And you know, if it was in the private sector, the same business in the private sector.
Neither system is flawless, but if we make the commitment that we're going to continue to have all of our accountability officers, and we're going to continue to have a robust budget process, can we also talk about the fact that our long-range funding formula is not sustainable?
Some people don't even want to have that bigger discussion. It's just, you know, just keep everything low. Fix my roads, fix my this, fix my that, and that's all you should be doing.
But Gary, we're not fixing their roads well enough anymore. And we're not picking up the garbage in the park well enough. They are not happy with it. They want us to do a better job.
Nisha, how are you? It's been a while.
More and more, Gary is encountering constituents in his ward like Nisha.
Nisha is typical of a senior, I think, in my ward. She's on her own right now. She is on a fixed income. So how long have you lived in the area? In this house, how long have you lived in your house?
Oh, this house was built in 1980.
And you've been here?
I've been here since
the original owner?
1980. Original owner.
And I'm assuming you want to stay here?
I tried to put everything in this house to stay here. I put the stair lift in 2016. I did the bathroom upstairs. It's a shower. You know, I want to spend my old age here in this house. I don't want to go to a nursing home. I don't want to live in a condo. I'll die fast if I live in a condo.
Yeah, if you're not in this house, where do you go? And to be able to afford, unless you move out to the country, unless you move to, you know, other, like down out east and all that, you just can't afford. You want to stay here, you want to stay in the community. That's the challenge we have.
I want to stay here. This is the house that's keeping me alive.
Good. Keeping and staying in their houses longer actually saves money in the long run. When you're looking at the healthcare system, when you're looking at, you know, not going to the hospitals, not going into long-term care. It's the people like you who have worked hard their entire lives that we need to continue giving you every opportunity if you so choose to stay in these houses that you've worked incredibly hard all across the city.
I am having sleepless nights.
How do you mean?
With the property tax going up, my income is not enough really to keep that up. I live on a small income.
We need to grow the city, we need to do all that, but at the same time, we need to keep it affordable and keep taxes low.
Yeah. So we have to figure out a solution that doesn't get in the way of your plans. Yeah.
What is your solution?
We're on a date to figure it out.
That's what we're trying to figure out.
And if we don't figure it out, we're breaking up.
No. You have a good man there.
Being a senior on a fixed income, there are challenges. That's why I look at trying to ensure that we always need to keep property taxes low for those people. So this is my half of the blind date. I get to choose what we're doing, where we're going. And I also get to choose something else.
What?
What we're wearing. So this is my little surprise for you. So you get to wear something to our next event.
Is this the humiliation part of the blind date?
So, which one do you think you get to wear?
But that's not true. If I put that on, you'll be telling people the opposite of what I keep saying. That's the conversation that we keep having over and over again in Toronto. Shall we continue to have low property tax or shall we have high property tax? It's one or the other. So I didn't mind wearing the buttons. To me, it ended up being a reminder of the conversation that's going nowhere and the conversation we could be having.
At a local pub, Gary gathers his constituents to hear about the councillor's vision for the city's financial future.
We're across the ward just talking to some of the residents about our finances at the city, keeping taxes low, keeping taxes high, in the simplest form.
It got a little more complicated than this binary choice. We actually talked about a whole range of things.
I think we need to keep taxes lower, just for people like Nisha down there, and I'm a pensioner, although I don't act like it. It's my skateboard.
Is that why you had your hand on my knee?
But we need to keep taxes lower. For pensioners, it's also young people. Young people to be able to afford a house. Do you see an area where we can pull money out and not have to raise taxes?
Yes, and that's where Shelley and I sometimes will differ. So do I still think we have the ability to continue what we've been doing over the last 4 or 5 years, keeping property taxes low while keeping the investments up? I still think there are opportunities there, and I'm talking about within. What I can say is it's getting harder and harder to do.
On the operating side, if you want to see efficiency, here's the real truth. In 2014, when Gary was budget chief, we were spending $4,500 a year on every Torontonian. We're now spending $4,300.
Excellent.
So we're finding efficiency, but it's not going to get us to 2030. We got to have the how are we going to get there conversation real soon, or we're just going to be stuck having this fight.
Nice buttons, though.
It's a difference, I guess, in philosophy where it's, you want to raise taxes, you want to keep taxes low. Do you want to look at other revenue tools to build the city? I kind of go, yeah, but I will do everything I can before, or to balance, or to save before I look at any kind of revenue tool.
To learn how the biggest cities work, Shelley is bringing Gary to New York.
Good morning, Chief.
Hey, neighbor. How are you?
Welcome to New York.
Welcome to New York.
Jump in. We've been criticized in the City of Toronto many times for thinking because we have no peers, we can't talk to any peers. But we do have peers. They just happen to be south of the border and across oceans.
Shelley wants to introduce Gary to someone in New York who is one of the world's experts in city finances.
Our tax revenues are about 2/3 of the budget. Over time, we have diversified those tax revenues. So we started, we have the property tax. It's a very stable source of revenues, but it's about 45, 46%. And then we have income taxes. We tax personal income and business income, incorporated and unincorporated. And then we have consumption taxes.
You've got people in New York City who are barely getting by. And then you've got whoever owns that condo. He's got a lot of disposable income. He's going to spend a lot of money all around that neighborhood, and you get a piece of that. When people go out to spend their disposable income, our government, the municipal order in Canadian cities and in Toronto, where there is so much disposable income, where most of the 1% for the whole nation live, and that's the piece of spending that happens on the part of individuals that we really get none of.
We actually had a very strong debate to put in a road toll on our one of our major highways within the city. And it was a tough debate, and it would have been brought in the kind of revenues that we could use and need to rehabilitate transit and those roads across the city. Billions of dollars over many, many years it would have brought in. And we went up to the province. We, in the Toronto Act, were allowed to do this. They said no. And that was probably the biggest debate we've had, I think, in many, many years.
What we were missing, we had a debate, we just didn't have a great business case.
Yeah, and a lot, but
we didn't hire a consultant and figure out how much it was going to cost to implement it, so we could go up and say to them, this is what we want to do, this is how long it will take to implement, this is what it will earn per year, because we didn't do that piece. I really want us to sit down as a council, first just with each other, to really understand it, and then begin to work with our community and our province.
That's one of the things I think Shelley brought, is we do need to have these conversations. I get that, and I totally agree 100%. The challenge I have, of course, is we can have the conversation, but where will it get you? So you look at even the last mayoral election, all the mayoral candidates said we're going to keep our property taxes low. So there's that push from that kind of political, you want to get elected, you need to make that promise, and you need to live up to the commitment, or you may not come back. So that's whether you're left or right, doesn't matter.
The act of having that conversation about what would be a better plan, we got to stop using it to take political shots at one another and have the conversation. I submit that our residents would like us to stop taking shots at each other and have that conversation too.
True. So before we leave, I need to walk in a city park.
I think we can probably arrange that for you on this date.
Shelley thinks it's important that Gary meets one of New York's most prominent councillors.
Gary was
we were just saying, when I come to New York, I need to go to a park.
Very good. All right. Well, we'll come to City Hall Park, which is one of our oldest, obviously. We're lucky for a while now that we have had an income tax as well as a property tax, and obviously that not only gives you some revenue, but it makes you kind of counter-cyclical. So when you're more likely at a point in the cycle, if there's some reason why there's a drag on property tax, which is not the case now. Property taxes are rising as property values rise. But having an income tax is sort of offsetting, and doesn't get us through every recession, but it's been pretty valuable.
Where does that income tax come from? Does it come from if you work here or if you live here?
If you work here.
Right.
Yeah.
This is what I wanted Gary to hear, because this is what our Torontonians always say to us. Why do we have to pay for everything? All those people come in here from Markham and Mississauga.
Yeah.
Because you collect it the way you collect it.
We have 1 million people
those
coming
people
into the city.
Those people can invest in the core.
And they come into the city. They, other than, they'll shop, they'll eat, they'll work. Then
we
they
get
leave.
none of that.
Yeah, but they need your streets and your transit and your police and your firefighting, and none of that money comes to you.
Capturing some of that wealth would help us begin to be able to help the middle class stay in their home, help older people stay in their home, and help the young people that are really the new economy in our city, the tech economy in our city, help those younger people get started.
The governor and the legislature just agreed to do congestion pricing like they have in London. When drivers drive into the core business district, Manhattan, they'll, depending on what time of day, pay a toll that will, one, hopefully reduce congestion and manage our traffic problems, but two, provide about $15 billion to invest in the subway system. So that's another alternative revenue system that maybe Toronto could look at that's not an income tax.
We have looked at that. You just gave the business case for it. We need a sales tax, payroll tax, but we've got to be prepared to really stand tall and say, we're asking for this. We will own the fact that such a thing is being implemented and give the province the confidence that we'll do so.
For Shelley's last stop, she wants Gary to learn about participatory budgeting.
This is our first stop. You can check out our little signs.
These weren't here.
These
I've
weren't
been here
here
before. These were not here.
Yeah.
Prospect Park Alliance, little barbecues, community barbecues.
Funded
so this
through
would have been funded
participatory budgeting. This was a recent winner, but what's interesting to me about these is that these are compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act. So they're our first grills in the park that are accessible.
Of course. You could pull in under them. So the neighborhood assembly maybe starts with the idea of we wish it was easier to cook in the park. And that's where Parks comes in. If they may have seen these in a catalog, they know they can get these. If someone says they want to have that, you want to have Parks there first because they can talk about what's viable. They're part in the decision about whether something goes on the ballot and whether it's viable. You set these conditions up front. And then if people know about those things while they're voting on it, then you don't have any dispute afterwards. It's become quite sophisticated for these guys because they have done it every year for 8 years. And there's learning every year. When you do PB every year, what happens is residents start to think like councillors. They start to set priorities.
I worked with a process that focused on anti-poverty work in Rochester, New York. Some of the projects were amazing.
And sometimes you want to do those things, but you end up in a bit of a debate, particularly in parks, with the public service because it all seems politically charged. I need to put this nice thing in the park, it'll get me votes. But when you hand it over to the community, what your staff learn, what the public service learns is, no, parks really do mean everything to residents and they want this. They're telling you they want this. So now let's just figure out a way to get it done, gentlemen.
I want people engaged, I want them involved. And that's where I look at, again, let's have PB, let's have participatory budgeting at a certain level.
He knows that we need to do more of that. And I don't think we would have ever sat down and had that conversation if we hadn't gone on this date. Very different date, you have to admit.
Hey, listen, I was not anticipating or expecting what we saw today. I have some food for thought. I'll be thinking about this and, you know, let's have that bigger discussion, because I think that needs to happen. I realize that we can't be working inward as a city. I need to do a little more work on looking at those different jurisdictions. And I think Shelley showed me that. So I appreciate the fact that she did that. Oh, wouldn't it be nice just to go for a walk, have some ice cream, some New York pizza or something like that?
We could jump on the train and maybe no one would notice that we didn't come back home.
Yeah. No, my meeting's tomorrow morning. I got meetings tomorrow morning, unfortunately.
Okay.
We have a basketball.
We kick off our next budget process in a couple of months. And I can't wait to see how it changes the way we interact, because they can get pretty tense, but we know where each other are coming from now.
I think we'll appreciate each other a bit more, but will it change our attitudes? It will change somewhat, but I think we still have very differing views. And in fact, it's that diversity that makes things work.
Here in a single lifetime, it's brought us radio, television, electric refrigerators, and hundreds of other things. Not just for a wealthy, privileged class, but for everyone.
The price Ontarians pay for electricity, our hydro rates, has been at the heart of recent provincial elections.
We're going to make sure we keep with our promise of reducing hydro rates by 12%.
The steady rise in rates over the past 20 years has affected everyone, from homeowners to renters to businesses. What can be done to bring hydro rates down to more affordable levels? Our experiment plays political Cupid by taking two opposing politicians out of their comfort zone. and forces them to listen to one another.
I've never dated a minister before, so.
There you go.
We're sending them on a series of platonic dates to solve the thorniest issues facing Canadians.
But I wasn't at the table. I wasn't part of that committee, so I honestly don't know.
You say
so
now.
I honestly don't know.
Who will seduce the other with logic or passion? And what surprises are in store? This is Political Blind Date.
I was born in a little village of Hepworth, about 400 people between Owen Sound and Sauble Beach. And that shaped me from the small town rural spirit of people coming together and making a difference for their community. So my biggest role model would be my mother, a single mom. She has gone through a lot, worked very hard, never ever heard her complain, always positive, always bubbly. Ended up suffering through cancer, but again, through all of that, I never ever heard anything. So just a real salt of the earth, happy-go-lucky, fun person. So she truly is that person who has molded me and who I've watched and who I've tried to emulate. That was my first career, and I got to interact with people and watch a municipal council, how they worked, how the public interacted, and that again really appealed to me. I became an area manager for Heart and Stroke. I was executive director of a hospital foundation. So if you see kind of a trend and a link, it's that community service, public service. So for many years, people would jokingly say, oh, you'd make a great politician, someday you'll be a politician. I remember telling my wife when we got married about 28 years ago that I was going to be a politician someday, and she said over my dead body, and about every 10 years we would visit that. But it really was a case of going, you know, this is what I really want to do. I want to make a difference in my community. Everybody is impacted by energy. We used to be in North America the leader with the lowest rates. It was a competitive advantage. We've, over the last number of years, we became one of the highest rates. We're going to have to get out of that hole if we're going to be prosperous in the future and make sure we have a great future for our children and grandchildren.
Well, I was born in London, Ontario, and very early on in life, my family moved to Hamilton. My father is an auto mechanic. My mother, most of her life, was a housewife, but she worked in retail. She did factory work. My mother, who's now 90, is someone I'm talking with on a regular basis. She came out and campaigned for me when she was in her 60s, and my father came out and worked on my campaigns. I owe a lot to them. I just do. In the early 80s, the city was looking at building a giant garbage incinerator, but that was an immediate threat to the community, and I increasingly found myself dealing with the many toxic chemical issues that we're facing in Toronto Danforth. I got elected and found myself working pretty heavily on the Board of Health around environmental issues, and it was really in that period that my awareness of climate change deepened. I've been environment critic or energy critic for the Ontario NDP and had an opportunity to watch each government in turn, in my opinion, mess up the file really badly. What's needed is a far more aggressive, energetic, committed program. We didn't see it under the Liberals, and what we're seeing under the Conservatives is going backwards.
Hydro rates have been a huge issue for Ontario voters over the past few provincial elections. The Liberals' Green Energy Act, passed in 2009, was intended to expand renewable energy sources and shut down coal-fired generators. Although it succeeded in ridding Ontario of high-polluting coal plants, it also drove up the cost of electricity for everyone, as the province turned to more expensive alternatives like solar and wind power. Since 2009, the average kilowatt-hour price for electricity in Ontario has nearly doubled, from 7.6 to 14.4 cents per kilowatt-hour. An average household might use 1,000 hours per month. To keep rates down, the Ontario government is borrowing about $2.6 billion per year to subsidize customers' bills. But this is not a long-term plan. The government has also canceled $790 million worth of renewable energy contracts, saying that the price of the electricity generated would be too expensive, but at the same time, costing taxpayers $230 million in cancellation fees. How can Ontario continue to get affordable energy to its citizens and businesses and build cleaner energy for the future? Peter and Bill are spending the day together, rare for rival politicians. Will they butt heads, or might they find common ground?
He and I sit opposite each other in the legislature. We never miss the opportunity to needle each other.
We can go toe-to-toe in a committee room, but we have mutual respect for each other.
He's amusing and entertaining, even when you disagree with him.
Our biggest difference is probably I'm pretty significantly pro-nuclear and he's pretty significantly anti-nuclear, so that will be interesting.
He gave really eloquent and well-reasoned arguments about why the Liberals were wrong. Now that he's doing what the Liberals are doing, I'm happy to quote him against himself. Bill!
Hey, Peter, how you doing, buddy? Peter's a good guy who I think will bring lots of good thoughts to the table. The question is, what table am I coming to?
I've never dated a minister before.
Oh, there you go, there you go. It's all good, it's all good.
On dates, you get to know each other.
Exactly.
So tell me a bit about your background, because other than knowing that you're fun in a speech.
I talk fast.
Yes, you do talk fast. So how did you get that?
Well, I think two things. One is I'm pretty high energy, so it's just a natural cadence. But as you, I think, may know from legislature, I am an auctioneer as well, so I naturally...
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so my buddy and I went away to auction school.
There's really a school?
Yeah,
of course there must be.
There's a number of them. We were the yackers on our ball team, so people would come up and say, hey, you guys must be great auctioneers. And I'd say, yeah, we'd laugh. We'd have some beer. And then one day he phoned, he said, we're in. I said, we're in what? And he said, auction school. I said, what? So we took a week off of our lives and went to auction school. And I say he became, he's still doing it. Probably 20 years ago. So one son. Or more?
One son.
One son?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And how old now?
He'll be 40 next year.
Oh, wow.
I know, it's a shocker to me. And you?
Two boys. So I have a son, Zachary, 25, and Ben's 22. And what's your son do?
He's an environmental lawyer.
Okay.
I know you won't be surprised at that.
That's good, that's good.
I'm glad you're here. We aren't going to agree on everything, Bill, but you and I both agree on this, that the rise in the cost of hydro has been a huge problem for Ontario. Coming at that issue and finding a way to actually deal with those costs, deal with the environmental impact, are going to be really critical to our future, without a doubt. We need to be looking at ways to deal with energy costs at the lowest price possible that helps families directly. In your platform, you said you'd cut bills by 12%. You may provide me with a revelation today about how that's going to happen in the next year or so. I haven't seen it so far. You're in a position, Bill, to do something really interesting the Liberals wouldn't do, and you need to think about it.
Being a minister now, I have that much more ability to listen and to make change. I think as a government, that's one of the things we have done. So we canceled 750 contracts that weren't needed because we have a surplus. We'll save us $790 million over the 10 years, so that will go back to people's pocketbooks. That is a saving.
Oh, yeah.
The debt that we have inherited as a government was done over 15 years under the Liberals. We're not going to change it overnight. We're not going to have the magic bullet overnight. I don't have a revelation of that 12% today, but I will say.
But I'm hoping, Bill.
But I will say to you that, and I think you are a person who will appreciate this, is you're not going to have it in 1 year after 15 years of going in one direction changed overnight.
$2.5 billion we're borrowing every year to drive down hydro rates. And when you say you can cut prices by 12% and then you don't put in place the measures that are necessary to do that, then I got to ask, so are you serious about this?
I felt pretty comfortable in energy as an opposition backbencher, but once you're in the file and see just how convoluted and all the different mechanisms and levers, I truly need those briefings. I truly need to get up to speed, and frankly, I need your opinion, and I need the Liberals' opinion, and Mike Schreiner from the Green, and say, okay, how do we do this as a collective to make sure there is balance, that we have a system that's actually going to be affordable?
Thank God we've got a whole day.
Absolutely, yeah. We might need more than a day, but this is a good start.
We should head out.
Okay, no, this has been great.
Peter wants Bill to meet a constituent who is showing the way forward in terms of retrofitting his home to cut back on electricity use.
The most fundamental thing about the house is that we wanted to increase the insulation and the airtightness of the house. That's the thing that really reduces your energy demand. Another thing is we do not use fossil fuels directly in the heating or cooling of the house, so it's all electrical. And it's a heat pump system, which is pulling heat out of the soil under the house. All these red tubes are going to the heating zones and coming from the heating zones.
Andrew runs a firm that does consulting on energy efficiency, and so he's completely rebuilt his own home to cut the energy use by 3/4.
The mass people, for again, the cost effectiveness, the person who's barely paying their mortgage isn't going to be able to do this retrofit to this standard.
How do you get people to make this choice? Even the people that have money to do a big retrofit don't necessarily do an energy efficient retrofit. Some signals from the government, I think, is helpful, even psychologically, to get people to even consider this stuff. So.
If the government were to invest in houses on a large-scale basis, there would be economies of scale that would allow us to effectively provide financing to homeowners and allow them to do these kinds of retrofits. That's why I think you needed an approach that's really different from the Liberals, which was, theirs was to give out here and there. You need a really strategic focus on these kinds of deep retrofits.
Let's sit down at a table with all the people of the legislature, all people with different thoughts, and say what is, but let's do truly a cost output mindset.
If you were to take all of the things that Andrew has put into his home and set up programs to retrofit people's homes across Ontario, you could give people comfortable homes where they could afford the energy bills, and you could put hundreds of thousands of people to work. We were talking about what's happening in Holland. They're doing all this work to make houses net zero, that they produce as much energy as they use. But it isn't for free. People actually have to pay back. Now, they're not paying gas and electricity bills the way they were. They're paying back a fee to the government for the work that was done on their houses. Their costs are stabilized, and the energy system really gets a big environmental and economic boost. You guys are business-oriented. I need you to think about that. Ontario needs you to think about it.
Peter wants Bill to understand how vulnerable renters can be to price gouging on electricity rates from sub-metering companies.
Might be great for the landlords who get that cost off their books, might be great for the people making the sub-meters and running this business, but it's not so great for the tenants. The idea is supposed to be that people can save massive amounts of electricity by controlling their use. Well, people in this building can't control their fridge, their stove, air conditioning, all that stuff is provided by the landlord. The tenants can turn their lights off a little more. That's not going to make any difference. The Ontario Energy Board had been given the power to regulate those costs, and then suddenly this spring, as part of the omnibus bill, that power was snatched away from them.
When you look at bills, people may be paying $18 a month, $12 a month for electricity, and $20 or $25 a month for administration. Well, in the past, they didn't pay for administration.
Or it was built into the rent. I mean, that seems to be a more sensible way. We centralize it. The landlord deals with the utility company. The landlord takes the steps to create the energy efficiency.
The Liberals eliminated the incentive for landlords to invest in cutting their energy use.
Right.
And now the tenants are at the mercy of these companies, and they don't have anyone who's got their back. And you're in a position to do that.
Having a guy like Peter or yourself come and provide that factual validity is take a look at it. We can always readjust.
We provided all this stuff to your committee when you were studying whether or not to let them out of the regulation of the OEB, and you didn't pay any attention to anything we said about it. But
so this will sound very political.
It was a big bill.
This will sound very political. I wasn't at the table. I wasn't part of that committee. So I honestly don't know.
You say
so
now.
I honestly don't know what all the detail is, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know why the decision was or wasn't made whenever it was made. And being in the minister's role, you have the ability to ask questions. You have the ability to go backwards and say, why did we do that? What's the rationale? And maybe there was a decision made that let's go and revisit it. Is that really what we intended? And did it work out the way we wanted? I don't have the detail.
You will do that.
Just as it blew up for the Liberals, it could blow up for you if there isn't a protection in place.
I like to avoid the blow-ups.
I think that's best.
Yeah, it's good for all of us.
It's hard to put things back together when they blow up. It's better to prevent them from blowing up.
I was glad that he was open to it. I hope he does it. Bill's problem is going to be, I don't think his government is headed in that direction. But I'm completely aware that those meter companies seem to be well connected at Queen's Park, and that is going to be a problem.
Peter needs Bill to see a local generating station that he believes is unnecessary.
We argued with the Liberals at the time that for the roughly $750 million they spent on this, they could have invested in downtown Toronto. They could have cut our energy use dramatically, and you wouldn't have needed to spend on this plant. So I wanted to show them, here is a direction that you need to turn away from. I've shown you what you can do. Don't do this. We're going to be in a situation all over Ontario now in the next few decades where we've got these plants that most of the time are sitting idle. The money for them could have been used to actually cut our costs dramatically. And that's something that, as Minister of Energy, you need to think about, because it's a huge wasted opportunity. And in the next few decades, when we have to really get out of fossil fuels, it could be a big expense for us. And we've got enough expenses. Now we've got this legacy of more plants than we need sitting around soaking up our cash, and people with hydro bills that they can't handle. And Ontario right now borrowing $2.5 billion a year to subsidize hydro rates because we've got problems like this.
At the end of the day, you had to have gas because it's one of the things that can get up very quickly. It can provide significant amounts of power in a very short period of time. Is it always going to be there? Will it always be there? Not necessarily. But we can't, again, base policy on either political whim or ideology. We need to say, what's the practicality of all this? What's the mix that we truly have?
You're going to have to build infrastructure in Ontario. We have to have power. What I'd argue with you is you need to have power that has the least impact on people's health, least impact on the environment, and least impact on our pocketbooks. And you're going to balance those three out. In the next few years, there will be periods when we will need more power. And he's got a choice. He can start the process now of investing in efficiency and conservation at a very low price, or he can look at ramping up these gas plants, and that's just going to make it a lot tougher for us on our hydro bills. You've been a wonderful guest.
That's been a pleasure.
Yeah, no.
That's
Come to
great.
my riding anytime,
Absolutely,
man. Anytime.
absolutely.
Greek food, Chinese food.
There you go. And we look forward to bringing you back to mine.
I'm looking
Absolutely,
forward to it.
absolutely.
No, it'll be fun.
Now it's Bill's turn. He wants to prove to Peter that conservation efforts by electricity users can't solve all the problems the system has.
Our prices have gone up dramatically over the course of the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Our sales and our margins have not.
Right.
So it just continues to take away from our bottom line. And we're not going to be here.
And you're one of the largest employers in town, Peter?
We're a large employer in town, yes.
Right. So there's nowhere these people are going for other jobs if you were to leave here.
That's right.
You have done, if I recall, you've done all of the conservation type of things that you can possibly do here.
Yeah, we did. We
Keep
just,
your costs down.
like all our lighting is just 3 years old. We redid that.
Right.
On a program from through Ontario Hydro.
Yeah.
We got a rebate for that, but it took us 3 years to pay for it. But had we not done that, I don't know where our hydro rates would be today. So our hydro bill would be today. So
the savings paid for it all within 3 years?
Just a little under 3 years. Yes.
That's a pretty good payback.
That is a good payback.
The challenge, though, Peter, I think on the opposite side of that, though, is that was the one time that you did that.
Yeah.
But your costs continue to rise. So you don't get that savings
That's right.
perpetually, right?
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
And that's one of the challenges I think, Peter, from our legislative perspective, have to appreciate that those programs can help for a short time, and yes, there is a bit of a payback. But if the costs keep doubling, you don't have, like, what else do you do? How else do you get those savings down, right? We have to do stuff that looks at the long term, and how do we put a plan together that starts to address, move those rates, but not a knee-jerk that's actually going to have potentially unintended consequences to certain people.
What about wind and solar? Like that's a higher cost, right?
So what you've now brought up is where Peter and I definitely differ on certain things. I'm a big fan of nuclear, and certainly in our area, Bruce Power has a huge impact, not just economically, but from the whole community perspective.
And so you've got a person on each shoulder, Peter.
Yeah.
And I'd make an argument this way. If we had solar and wind buying power from Quebec as a backup, we could actually deal with a lot of the structural problems in terms of price in Ontario.
So the other concern, Peter, is when Quebec has their surplus, isn't necessarily when we need it. And you have to factor that in. You don't have 2-cent wind power. You don't have the capacity. You don't have the ability in our environment here to drive what you need to run this store every day. And it's intermittent. You can't get away from being intermittent. So is there a place for it? Absolutely. But why would we spend that kind of money when we can have base load generation that you have to rely on? I'm not opposed to renewable energy, but we have to do it strategically. We have to treat it as if it's your and my money every day, and what's the dollar invested gets you at the other end, looking at all the different aspects, health, the economy, the ability for people to pay.
For his next stop, Bill wants Peter to meet a couple who have suffered living near to a wind turbine.
We weren't against having a turbine in our backyard. You know, they're a little bit different to watch, but so what? But when the time came that it started to operate, it became a very, very different story.
Not everyone was bothered by infrasound. They said 1 in 3. Well, it ended up 2 in our house through me first, which had the first symptoms of it, you know.
And what were the symptoms?
The headaches, the ringing in the ear, the pain up the back of the neck, very poor balance and equilibrium, like an open stairway like that. I was almost afraid to go by it without hugging the wall. It progressively got worse. And I went to the doctor because I thought I had a brain tumor. That was my first indication.
Those symptoms,
you know,
they would be scary symptoms.
Oh, it was dreadful. Like the pain was working on the nervous system and it ended up in the top of the head then. So the pain would go up the spine and into the top of the head. And it was like, it was almost suicidal feeling.
And how long did you live there? How long did you have to persevere through this?
It started in March and we moved out the next May. My doctor told me, you either rent your house and get out of there or do something because you're going to go out of there in a box if you don't. Like, she was really quite concerned about my health.
For us to get out of the area, we had to take a bath on the price of our house. It became a marked house, you know. That's don't go there. We were fortunate enough that even though we sold our house at a loss of between $50,000 and $60,000, we were able to recover to the point here we are. So that was just our savings for when we get old. Hopefully we will someday. And here we are.
Is that something that we should be accepting, that people are having to sell their home to leave? So I came away from there saying more work needs to be done.
I know the Danes have done a fair amount of work on infrasound, and they just don't see any correlation between low frequency sound and any health impacts. So I'm stuck with a puzzle.
But if someone at that stage of their life is going to physically lose $60,000 to move out of a house, there's got to be something to it. They're not just moving for the sake of moving.
For Bill's final stop, he wants Peter to see one place where nearly 30% of Ontario's electricity is generated. Bruce Power, one of the largest nuclear plants in the world.
And at the time when I joined Bruce Power, this was a site that at the time would be closed down by now. So really what changed that was the focus at the time to shut down our coal plants. What that meant was we needed replacement generation, and that was what led to the Bruce Power investment programs. You know, our view of electricity supply is you need a mix, you need a balance, and so, you know, we believe a strong baseload nuclear that's flexible like Bruce complements some renewables in the sector, hydro, and even some gas that we have in Ontario for certain needs. So that's our role. One of the things we are so proud of here at Bruce Power is the work we're doing to make medical isotopes. Medical isotopes that keep hospitals clean, medical isotopes that are being used today to treat brain tumors and soon to be breast cancer. And we're actually embarking on a campaign right now to look at making other isotopes on the site.
Peter has a negative nuclear slant, and I wanted him to hear the story about isotopes and that whole health side of the business that doesn't always come out. I wanted him to hear the financial aspects, but at the end of the day, I wanted Peter to see Bruce Power in a different light.
Our responsibility is to operate the reactors and carry out any capital work in the reactors. So if we outperform the plan, we share that with the province. If we do not perform, that is our accountability as a private sector company, and it should be. We are a company that you know, has an obligation to our shareholders to, you know, perform financially. But in performing financially, what that also allows you to do is not only continue to produce a low-cost product, but to get more additional investment for what we need.
So what is the annual profit that's turned out of this plan?
I know we've been in touch with your office sometimes on question period on this. What will happen is somebody will disclose one component of one of our partners' financials, and they'll suggest that, hey, there's huge profits getting made. If you look at what Bruce Power has invested since 2001, the overwhelming majority of all that has been invested back in.
And what is that profit?
Well, it really depends how you want to look at it, Peter. If you look at it over...
But you're a private company, so every year you have to tell your investors what your profit is.
Correct. So each of our owners will have we're a limited partnership, so each of them will report out on that in a transparent basis every quarter. I guess my point is there's a lot of money from all over Canada going into this investment, and when we're looking at financials, we need to look at them and say how much is being invested. But the most important financial of all is what does the consumer pay for the price?
We've seen in the last 20 years, as the system has been increasingly privatized, sharp increases in the cost of electricity. You're injecting a profit component into people's bills that didn't exist before.
I'm not certain where a lot of things in our world come from if it's not a lot of private industry who put money back into our communities in various manners. At the end of the day, I think the people of Ontario are being served very well by some of that private interest.
Have we sold you yet?
You are good, Mike. You are very good.
If you want to be grilled by somebody, I don't want to be grilled by Peter, but he's quite good. He has definitely a real knack and a skill for that.
At this point in time in politics, someone who you disagree with, who's coherent and has a logical position, even if you disagree with it, man, it's kind of a treat. We both look at future sources of energy. I think we have a different perspective, but it's interesting to see yours and to talk to your constituents.
And similar with you. I think hopefully what he sees from me is I'm open-minded to say, sure, I'll go and revisit something. Sure, I'll take a look at something. Doesn't mean I'm going to do it, but if you can put fact in front of me and it's of value, then that's my job truly as a representative of the people.
If I came to him saying, I found a practical problem here that you need to address, he wouldn't dismiss it on a partisan basis. When it comes to these bigger pictures of how you shape the system, I hate to say it, but I think we're going to disagree.